Former slave plantation burns. Ooh, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Wasn't that famous line? And that's what people on social media were saying. We'll give you the details here. I mean, this was an inferno. This was bad, but things happen. It's called the Nottoway Plantation, a monument to Southern grandeur built on the backs of enslaved Black people. Been destroyed now by a fire that raged for nearly 40 hours, still shorter than a slave's work week. That began late May 15th. The inferno gutted the 160-year-old estate turned resort, once the largest antebellum mansion remaining in the South. Staff at the renamed Nottoway Resort noticed smoke in the south wing on the night of May 14th. Fire quickly spread through the 64-room, 53,000 square foot property, including a 3-story rotunda. It had been listed on the National Register of Historic Places since 1980. Despite efforts from multiple fire departments, the structure was lost. While the Iberville Parish government grieves the destruction of what it calls an economic cornerstone, others see poetic justice in the ashes of a plantation that never meaningfully confronted its legacy of slavery. Built in 1859 by sugar magnate John Hamden Randolph, the estate was powered by the force of labor, more than 150 enslaved people, a fact often glossed over in tourist brochures, says Black Enterprise. Let's go to recent decades. The property was marketed as a wedding venue, luxury getaway, complete with plantation balls, without so much of a public reckoning with the atrocities committed on its grounds. I mean, this is surely not the first fire that's been on the grounds. What about all the crosses that probably burned there? I'm sure they would have had other blazes. None, though, as large as this one, perhaps. I'll get back to the details. Once a house of horrors, the Nottoway Plantation eventually rebranded itself as a museum, only to be repackaged again as a luxury resort. What was once a site of brutal human trafficking became the Nottoway Resort, complete with wedding packages, guest suites, and even a tennis court. Plantation tourism disguised as Southern charm. For many, the destruction feels less like a tragedy, more like a reason to celebrate. This poster wrote, the Nottoway Plantation burned today. Some people are upset because their beloved event venue is gone. Seeing the flames and knowing the history, it's about time. Another wrote, good. Generations of human beings were held captive, tortured, sexually assaulted, mutilated, worked to death in plantations. Let the sadistic ghouls who want to hold their weddings and parties at Nottoway find another concentration camp for their happy occasion. This ex-user wrote, Nottoway burning? I have not a care. Rebranding a plantation as a resort is wild and diabolical. They don't even acknowledge the history of plantation on the website. They referred to it as a, quote, Southern mansion. And then there were others who said, I would mind traveling to this destination. Look, they're enjoying it. Well, you ladies are enjoying it. Wish I was there. Some traveled there. Real S. You should have told me. I would have absolutely went. Laughed my off. Another poster made an AI-generated image of Frederick Douglass smiling in front of the burning plantation. I don't know that they wouldn't have. I don't know that they wouldn't have found it hilarious. Okay? Why not? In fact, bring on the marshmallows, I say. I love a roast. I'm not interested in the s'mores, the chocolate graham. It's just, I understand it's iconic for many people. I just am interested in a nice, crisp marshmallow. And speaking of crisp, there you have it. Just like I said, I wasn't interested anymore in hearing from disgraced music stars who did things that I just cannot reckon with. I'm not really interested in this unless it's for the history. I might go to a place that was turned into a museum, and understand the history, although it's quite painful for me. There's certain things I can't watch or I have to prepare myself for. I do think this is poetic justice. I'm glad nobody was hurt in this decade there that we know of with this fire. But certainly there are some souls that have not been able to rest as people celebrate this house of horror. What say you?
Yeah, and there have been plantations that were retrofitted as museums, and they don't try to cover up just how horrible the things were that happened there. But it is important that we talk about those things and that we acknowledge those things. But Sharon, during the break, we were talking about my wedding, and I just got married back in November, but I got married in Galveston, Texas. And if you guys don't know about Galveston, well, everybody knows that the water's ugly because of Charles Barkley, but it is one of my favorite places because there's a ton of history there. And it's history that we don't see a whole lot of in this part of the country. But Galveston is different because it's almost like a city that is stuck in time. There are plenty of old mansions from back in the 19th century when Galveston was being built up to be the major port city of the Gulf Coast. So there were all these wealthy people there and they had all these big exquisite mansions. But with that history, there are less glamorous aspects that people don't like to talk about nearly as much. This was a slave state, right? We're a port city. That was a slave port. The Galveston Cemetery is full of Confederate soldiers. There is no denying what this place once was. And it's not that Galveston is trying to hide that, but it's not talked about as much. And maybe it doesn't need to be. But when I was looking for a wedding venue, there was one that was absolutely gorgeous and it would have been the right size, the right place. I just happened to stumble upon the history of what the building once was. It wasn't marketed that way. That history wasn't acknowledged as much as I would have liked it to have been, but I just happened to not book it. But then the place that I did book, I don't know, maybe I didn't look into the family and things like that. So the thing is, you do have to move on as far as living within a place where things have happened, right? But you also don't need to pretend that those things weren't horrific. You don't have to pretend that those things didn't happen. And you don't have to you can't blame people for not wanting to be a part of that legacy, right? And not to have that as a thing that they did. Also, a lot of places, they're trying to change their names or taking the plantation out of the name of the venue or whatever they're trying to sell it as. At least, if the word plantation was there, then you can be like, ugh, I don't want to get married on a plantation. But, a little bit of research would help. But I also don't expect people to do that little bit of research just because I know that they won't, right? I just have low expectations of people in that sense. And I just think that most people wouldn't think to do that kind of research in the first place. So, it does feel like poetic justice, as you said, and it feels like a very small win in a world that's so chaotic. When everything is burning, may as well burn something like this. You know what I mean?
If it's got to burn, and I rather like that another poster made an AI generated image of Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass smiling. They're posing in front of the burning plantation. I may see it, I don't know if it's copyrighted or not, but I'd like it in my office, blow it up, put it on some canvas here. I think you're right. We cannot escape our history. We're not asking, you're not asking to, but it's okay. And I think it's honorable and it is the right thing to do to get it out there. You're not just going to rebrand it. It's not Nottoway, it's House of Horrors. And there's souls that permeated that property that, but yes, what are you up to? Because we love being on with you. What are you up to?
So I'll be doing my videos for Rebel HQ. This week is a little bit short for me though, because I'm going out of town this weekend for a wedding.
You earned it.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's outdoors at a campground in a northern state, so it will not be on a farmer's plantation.
Yeah, you did your homework. Now, I don't know. That brings up another thing, though. Would we refuse to go if it were? Yeah, I don't want to ruin someone else's day, and I don't want to dictate where you hold your wedding. I don't know. I have to think about it, but I don't think I would boycott.
Yeah, I don't think I would either. But I also don't think any of my friends would get married on a plantation. So I don't think it's something I'd have to worry about.
I'd get thrown out because I would have done some documents and I would say, I want to pass out these pamphlets. Somebody would have said, this is our wedding, Sharon. Stop trying to illuminate people about the historical events of the property. So I probably would have been asked to leave.
Sharon, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I would have meant well. I just want people to know.